Welcome to episode 125 of Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. Wow, this has been an eventful week. What is happening in Ukraine is a brutal continuation of the war that Russia has been waging on multiple fronts for many years. It is the logical conclusion when a person who ruthlessly requires power over others is left pretty much unchecked. We will always have people such as Putin in this world. Some will have massive power, as he does. Some will be dictators in the smaller areas of life. There will always be a percentage of people who are working at the lowest levels of spiritual awareness in this school. It is the task of everyone at the higher levels to ensure that they do not have the power that is needed to do the damage that this man is doing. It's an unsettling thought that you can just be living your life one day, enjoying all that life has to offer, and the next you are having to engage in lethal combat with total strangers from a country that is not your own. And these people who are fighting you don't really have anything against you. They are just doing what they are told to do. They are killing children, women, and men for no reason other than that they have been told that this is what they are commanded to do. The aggressors, many of them still children, are having to step outside of their own sense of right and wrong to do things that will carry with them a karmic debt that will last for generations. It is gut-wrenching to see the faces of some of these young men who literally have no idea why they are even there. They just know that they have no power and must do what they are commanded to do. They have no beef with the people who they are working to destroy. They just have no power in this situation. Imagine how much damage all of this does to their souls. Then you have those who are under attack. They have no greater motivation than to protect themselves and their families and everything they have worked for in this life. They are having to do the unthinkable just to stay alive. They have no personal connection to those they are defending themselves against. They will not be taking on the same karmic debt, but the trauma they will endure will affect generations to come. The power they have comes down to their willingness to do whatever it takes to stay alive, along with whatever help the rest of the world can offer them. I also feel deeply for the Russian people who have nothing to do with this decision. They are held captive in a culture that is controlled by one sick and ruthless man who has the power to do whatever he wishes with their lives. They can't vote him out because it isn't going well. It doesn't work that way in Russia. The only way they get rid of Putin is in a manner that is as bloody and violent as the man himself. The Russian people will have their lives turned upside down as the sanctions the world is meting out change everything that they know. Plus, they will have to take on the karmic shame of being part of a country that has done the unthinkable. They have absolutely no power in this situation either. All of the power has been concentrated in the hands of one man who doesn't care what happens to any of the people involved in this catastrophe. He cares for no one but himself and his ruthless ambitions. But here's a beautiful thing. The world is rising up in support of Ukraine and finding a newly refocused energy to align with good over evil. Everyone who is not at a similarly low level of spiritual awareness is fired up with a desire to see the evil man and his mission derailed. Everyone has had reason to tap into their empathy. Everyone is focusing anew on the reasons that integrity matters, and especially integrity in our leaders. We have been in a death spiral of idiocy here in this country for years now. We have been caught up in the culture wars that have sunk to a level where people are willing to die over the requirement to wear a mask during a pandemic. The concerns of some have been shown to be silly and pointless in light of life's true tragedies. There is great power in focusing more people's attention to the things that really matter. There is great power in remaining steadfast even though there is so much bleakness in this world. Our souls crave light, and turning our attention to the need to right this heinous wrong is a collective turn towards the light. The light has, and always will be, right here for us. Even those who have chosen to steep themselves in darkness only need to turn their head toward it to be bathed in its healing powers. We each individually have that option. We have that power. The suffering of the people of Ukraine will be immeasurable, their losses unimaginable. The only way to honor those lives is to make meaning of them. It is for us to examine how this all happened, and it is on us to ensure that people will not have to go through this again. That is our job as students in this school. People will do terrible things, and it is our job to help those affected and figure out how we can keep that from happening in the future. That is our job. We need to make sure their deaths result in change. This particular struggle is between those who want democracy and the leader of a country that does not adhere to those principles. It is a battle between people who want to have a say in how they live their lives and a government that does not believe that people should have any say in those matters. History is littered with battles such as this. The fact that so many people are horrified instead of indifferent is an indication that we are collectively moving forward. This conflict is certainly not limited to Ukraine and Russia. It is a battle that we are fighting in our country as well. Even though we were able to vote out our own Putin wannabe, there is a large segment of one of our two major political parties that is trying to do the same thing here. They are trying to remove self-determination at the most fundamental levels of our lives. We need to decide if they get to have their way. They are working around the clock to ensure that more than half the population, women, have no self-determination over their bodies and their medical decisions. If you don't like abortion, fine, don't get one. But to force women into continuing pregnancies that they have decided would have bad outcomes is a cruel form of subjugation. Women know if continuing the pregnancy would put another soul in an untenable situation. They know if their home is full of violence or if there aren't enough resources to support another person. They know. Let them decide what is best. The people who would force them to continue the pregnancy feel really good about themselves for doing so, then take no responsibility for the outcome. They have no skin in the game. They do not want to help create a good outcome. They just want to punish the woman. Part of the emotional explanation for being anti-choice is that the potential soul should have a chance to be here. But a soul enters a body when that body is a separate entity, so no soul is lost when a cluster of cells is eliminated. Every soul will experience many different lifetimes, and they will choose to enter a body that is available. They do not have just one shot at getting a body. They have many. Have you ever noticed that all of the laws that are enacted punish the women and never the men? Why are men never held accountable for their irresponsible ejaculations? Why are they never a part of the equation? It's simple. It's because it's all about controlling women. If you tack on to one of these laws that fine women an equal fine for the man, along with forced sterilization for that man, you'd see all the laws repealed overnight. Even though they contribute half the DNA, men rarely have any skin in the game when it comes to an unwanted pregnancy. Along with the war on women, there is a war on LGBTQ adults, children, and the parents of these children. It has been deemed by some that they should not have any rights of self-determination. The fact that they do not want to be limited by the gender and sexual identity definitions of others means that they should not have the same rights as others. It is cruel and pointless and morally indefensible. It also fails to recognize that we are all here working on different courses. We are here to do different things. We are here to stretch and grow the possibilities of the human experience. There is not one right way to do it. The souls that enter a life that brings with it a self-definition that is capable of stretching those boundaries further than others may have imagined is a wise and bold soul. We should nurture and protect the brave ones among us. It is our job to keep them safe and allow them the room to show us the ways that we can all be limitless. Back in the 90s, there was much consternation about the Taliban. The Taliban is a group of militant, religious fundamentalists that have caused quite a stir. The images of them riding around in their trucks, armed to the teeth, terrorizing everyone into living the life they envisioned, was quite frightening. We, here in this civilized country, thought this all looked quite barbaric. We held ourselves above these people. Wake up. We have our own brand of the Taliban right here in the United States. They even ride around in trucks, armed to the teeth, and they want to impose their tyrannical religious zealotry upon the rest of us. They are backed by some fundamental Christian churches and one of the two political parties. They have a vision for how our country should be, and they are willing to kill and die to see that happen. It is only in our imaginations that living in separate countries means that we are not subject to the same issues. Every country, every city, every town, every neighborhood, and every family is made up of people who are working at all the different levels of spiritual awareness. Those who are religious fundamentalists feel that they are pious because they do what they do in the name of God. But they are nothing more than souls who are still working at the lower levels of spiritual awareness. They are still grappling with their low-level need for power over others. They are willing to harm others to have their way because they lack empathy, because they have no integrity, because they do not care how their actions affect others. They are so limited in their view of how life works that they need everyone else to shrink down to their size so they won't have to deal with the discomfort that comes from being asked to grow. They are still quite attached to their perceived status, and to acknowledge that people who are not just like them are of equal value is a loss to that perceived status. They think it will knock them down a few pegs, which is worse than death. Their sense of self is so fragile that they need the entire world to see things as they do. They need us all to see darkly. One of the hallmarks of being at the lower levels is the inability to deal with being held accountable. The very last thing you want when you are at the low levels of spiritual awareness is checks and balances. That, too, is death to them. So here in this modern progressive country, we have states enacting laws that make it a crime to tell the true history of what has gone on in this country. We have new laws that make it a crime to make a white person feel uncomfortable. It would be comical were it not true. To be so fearful of accountability that you need to stick your fingers in your ears and, nah, I can't hear you, is as pathetic as it gets. But that is where we are headed. All of this fundamentalist movement is about contracting, making ourselves smaller and meaner. To eliminate the knowledge of our full story is to wipe out our ancestors. It is to make their lives, their struggles, and their growth meaningless. If I had my way, shows like Finding Your Roots would be required viewing, because digging back into the history of any given person will unveil countless struggles that people faced and countless struggles they had to survive for us to even be here. In every lineage, there are people who did great things, and there are people who did terrible things. Some of those terrible things did not even register as terrible at the time they were done. But people, through the generations, learned, made corrections, and grew. The whole cycle of human life is, in fact, brutal, and it's also extremely beautiful. Everyone's life, no matter how they live it, reveals the greater truth. Everything is of immense value. But we humans shrink away from the messy. We don't like it in ourselves, and we can't tolerate it in others. But it is the truth. In the course of our many lives, we will experience it all. So will everyone else. We will step on others, and we will be stepped on by others. We will win and we will lose. We will be the victims and we will be the perpetrators. But through it all, we will inch towards becoming the exalted souls that we are designed to be. Let's create a world where it is possible for everyone to achieve their highest level of growth and self-expression. Love yourself, love others, help those who have been victimized, and hold the perpetrators accountable. Rinse and repeat. Thanks for returning for another week of Rebirth Revolution. Keep shining your light. The world is shifting, and it is within our power to make it shift to the better. You can always let me know how you're doing by emailing me at rebirthrev@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Rebirth Revolution can be found on all the podcast apps, the music apps, and full episodes can be found on YouTube and our Facebook page. Please subscribe, download, and share whenever possible. Until next week, pray for those who are at the mercy of a madman. Pay attention to the madmen in our midst. Take the appropriate COVID precautions and pace yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Stay strong and safe and solid in your highest ideals.